Hello everyone, this is Miss Mary. Today we're going to continue learning about Moses. And remember last week, God sent a lot of plagues to Pharaoh to let his people go so that Moses could lead them to the promised land. And so that's where we left off, and that's where we're going to pick up today. So stay with me and I'll be right back. Okay, Moses and the Red Sea, and this is by the Free Bible Illustrations, and the story can be found in the book of Exodus. That's the second book in the Old Testament, chapter 13, verse 17 through chapter 15, verse 21. As soon as Pharaoh set the people free, the Hebrew slaves set off in a hurry to leave Egypt. They took with them all their belongings, plus the gold, silver, and gifts the Egyptians had given them. God did not lead them along the coastal road towards the land where the Philistines lived. This might have led to a battle with the tough Philistines, which God knew the freed slaves were not prepared for, and many might have fled back to Egypt. Instead, God led them into the desert by the Red Sea. During the day, God led them in a pillar of cloud that always stayed in front of them and never disappeared. At night, God led them in a pillar of fire that lit up the route. Eventually, God led them to the shore of the Red Sea, where they camped. Meanwhile, just as God had warned Moses, Pharaoh and the Egyptians changed their minds and wanted the Hebrews back as slaves. Pharaoh got into his chariot and gathered all his troops and 600 chariots to chase after the escaping Hebrews. When the escaping people saw the troops approaching, they cried out in fear. "Have you brought us out into the desert to die?" they complained to Moses. "We'd rather be alive as slaves in Egypt than die in the desert." "Don't be afraid," replied Moses. "Stand firm and see how God is going to deliver you. The Lord is going to fight for us, and you will never see the Egyptians again." "Tell the people to move forward towards the Red Sea," God told Moses. "Then hold your staff high, stretch out your hand over the sea to divide it so they can cross it on dry land." And Moses obeyed. The freed slaves watched as the pillar of cloud that had been leading them moved between them and the chasing Egyptians. That night they were in light and the Egyptians were in the dark. God drove the sea back with strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The people crossed through the sea with a wall of water on both sides of them. The Egyptians tried to chase after them, but God jammed the wheels of their chariots, and there was confusion among the troops. "God is fighting against us," they yelled. God then told Moses to raise his hand over the sea. At daybreak, the walls of the waters collapsed and the dry path disappeared. The whole army of Pharaoh were swept away. No one survived. Those safely on the shore knew God had delivered them as he had promised and put their trust in him. They also realized Moses was God's servant and the best person to be leading them. Moses and all those who had escaped sang a song about their rescue to thank God. Aaron's sister Miriam the prophet and the women took tambourines and led everyone in dancing to celebrate. Okay, that was our story for today, and we got our story from the Free Bible Illustrations. All right, that was a pretty neat story, and it covered a lot of things. So we're going to review just a little bit. I mentioned it before we started our story. Remember all the plagues that God sent to Pharaoh? And Pharaoh kept saying, nope, nope, not going to let them go, not going to let your people go. And finally, Pharaoh changed his mind and said, okay, you can go. But in this story, Moses was leading the people. And do you remember what God used to direct the people during the day so they'd know where to go? There was something in the sky. Yep, you're right. It was a cloud. There was a cloud during the day that they could see, and if they followed it, they were going the right direction. And then at night, God had a pillar of fire, and it would light up their path so they could see where they were walking. And also, it would direct them in the right way, direction, so they didn't get lost. So anyway, so God was taking care of the people. He was helping them through the desert. And Pharaoh got to thinking that he wanted his slaves back. He really needed them, I guess. And so he got his troops together and he said, we're going after them. So Pharaoh changed his mind again. Can you believe that? After all those plagues and everything that God had happened, and Pharaoh kept saying, no, no, no. Finally, Pharaoh said yes. And now that the people are in the desert, Pharaoh's going, I'm going to go get them. I want them back. So he changed his mind again. Anyway, so Pharaoh starts chasing the Israelites down. And they come to the Red Sea. And of course the people, they're afraid because they see Pharaoh and all these people chasing them. And they just knew that they were going to perish out there in the desert. So they started complaining to Moses, why did you bring us out here? We're going to die. And Moses said, don't worry. God's going to fight for us. Don't worry. And so do you remember what God told Moses to do with his staff? He carried a stick, and it was called a staff. God told Moses to hold it up over the Red Sea, and the Red Sea did something special. Can you tell me what that was? Yep, you're right. It parted. And so there were like walls of water on both sides, and the people could just walk through on dry land. It was pretty cool, because seas are deep, and you can't walk on water, and you can't walk through a sea. But God made it possible for these people to walk on dry land. And they got across the sea. And just as they got across, Pharaoh's people and Pharaoh started crossing. And do you remember what God did? He had the walls of the water close back. And all of Pharaoh and his people, they drowned in the sea. So God took care of his people, and they got across the Red Sea safely. So that's where our story leaves off today. And we will continue a little bit more about Moses and leading the people next time. So I will be seeing you in Bible class, and hopefully in Kids Worship on Sunday. Bible class is at 9:30 in the big room. So we will see you soon. Bye-bye.